more afterwards, we'll do. But I want to say hello to everybody who is watching online, if anybody is, hopefully we're doing it right. Last time, everything worked pretty well, except after an hour, we lost our internet connection, and so there's an hour and 3 minutes of our meeting, last meeting on YouTube. All right, so welcome everybody.
Maybe that's not.
This is our May 18th edition of our general meeting. Crowd is a little sparse. I don't know if it's because it's too hot, people have started traveling already or what, but anyway, we like to welcome our new members or visitors at our beginning of every meeting. And we have lots of you here, and that's nice. So take 10 seconds and tell us who you are, where you came from, what your photo background is, and then pass the microphone on.
Bob Sled, the San Francisco Police Department, photo lab. I lead crime scene fraternity.
Not kind of, the kind of photos we like to hang at the hospital. Okay.
Joey's the wife of Bob, and I'm not a photographer or artist, but Bob, after he retired, he has, well, he was always a member of the International Photographers of America. So he just didn't do dead people. I'm Randy Jensen, my husband Al. I always have my camera with me, and that's why I'm here today to learn a little bit more about that iPhone and all the cameras. Take thousands of photos. Love it.
Well, tell us who you are anyway.
Al Jensen.
Al Jensen. All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Barbara Chanel. I joined this because I need to take better iPhone pictures because I too have it with me all the time. I'm very active in VAC, the visual arts, and so I take pictures to paint from and then take pictures of my painting. So that's why I need help.
Welcome. And how long have you been in Sun City?
4 years.
4 years, and you came from
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
My name is Bob Lever. I'm from Connecticut originally, and I've done photography on and off over the years, mostly personal interest type of photography.
Have you, or Stephen, have you introduced yourself previously?
A couple weeks ago. A couple meetings ago.
How did you know? I recognize everybody. Anybody I don't recognize must be new.
My name is Mike Martin. I'm from Austin. We've been here 3 weeks. It's actually my wife's idea, so we're giving this a shot, but I think she's already bought something. It is fun. It's a lot more fun than I thought it would be. Anyway, I've been playing with this for about 40 years. I'm still interested, so that's where I am.
Very good. Thank you. And Kim, you made it just in
I
time.
made it, oh, my microphone, boy. Hi, I'm Kim Burketti. I've been here about 3 years almost now, new to the club, from Chicago area. What else would you like me to say?
Well, tell us about your vast photo experience.
Oh, okay, so my background is in the creative world. I was a production department manager in my last job before I retired, so I have experience in creative. I was never a photographer.
She's a photo restoration expert.
Yes, and I love photo restoration work, so that's my thing.
And she is amazing at the stuff she does. Who else do we have? Let's see.
I'm Rick Genius. I've been here in Sun City for about 1.5 years now, and I lived in Cedar Park for about 4 years, and then part of that, San Diego for over 40 years. So I'm retired Army, retired in the Army in 1977, and I got interested in photography when digital started. Remember the Sony Mavica? That was my first camera, so and I enjoyed it mostly nature.
Great. Anybody? Now, I recognize Randall under his mask, and takes that off, we see his beard, and you don't still recognize him. Does anybody else do? No? All right, very good. Welcome to all of you. We're real happy to have you. I hope that our club meets your expectations and helps you for however you want to be helped. Tracy, do we have a field trip report?
We do.
Tracy is our director of field trips.
So, good afternoon, everyone. May just kind of flew away and I didn't get one planned for this month, but June 7th, which is a Tuesday, I'd like to go to Becker Vineyards. They have lavender fields in addition to the winery, and so we'll go and take pictures of flowers. They had to replant late this spring, so hopefully the flowers will be in bloom and we can take advantage of that. So we maybe have a glass of wine. So. More.
For those of you who are new, we try to have field trips about every month, and some interesting place, and from lavender fields and vineyards to chocolate factories to bowling alleys. So it's everything. So a very robust field trip plan, thanks to Tracy. Financial report, as of April, our balance was $7,385, membership was $226. We have a question? Jeff Goldberg is leading the board. Jeff is in Oregon right now looking for a house. He has the good fortune of having, as he describes it, a daughter of childbearing age. And so grandchildren are more important to them than be living in Sun City. So Jeff is leaving, and the board has appointed Tracy, who you just met, will fill Jeff's board position as VP of Programs and Education for the remainder of his term. Some other notes, studio lighting, we had a workshop on studio lighting down in the Gables 1 and 2 with Kevin Gorley, who is a professional photographer from Boston, does a lot of studio photography stuff. One of the things that we discovered is that all of our equipment is very old, in some cases dangerous, and the board has decided we think we should get current equipment and dispose of all that old stuff. And Kevin commented that the power pack, or whatever it's called, that he used for his demonstration, that he learned on one like that in 1976. So, also, we have appointed a director of technology, and that is Walt Grabowski. And so Walt is, he's going to deal with our hardware. So we have our PC, our monitor, the big screen, the router, and the software stuff like Zoom, Dropbox, Microsoft Office, the Adobe apps that we have on our computer. And boy, it's wonderful to have somebody who knows what he's doing. In that role. As an example, I have a Dropbox account, a personal account. We have a club account. Well, for the St. David's exhibit, where those who signed up to exhibit uploaded their images to a Dropbox folder. Well, I created that on my account and not the club's account. So I'm getting this message from Dropbox that says, you're running out of space, you gotta sign up, pay money, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I signed up for a month so I could have the stuff and not have them say, sorry, there's not enough room in Dropbox. So next time I'm gonna call Walt and say, Walt, I need one of these, and he's gonna do it for me. This is gonna be wonderful. Okay. Another thing that we mentioned last time, we're considering the board has approved increasing the size of the board to 7 members. What those 7 members are what those exact roles are gonna be, not been determined as of yet. We're working on that. We will to make that change, we will have to have a revision to the bylaws of the club, and that requires a vote of the members, and that will probably be done in our September meeting. Use of the club's website and email. We've had some requests in the past hey, we just send out an email to everybody in the club, or we put this on the website, and it may be, I've got a camera for sale, or I'm gonna have an exhibit here, or I'm gonna do this or that. And it's easy to say, would you do that? But doing it is quite another thing. We're asking people who are volunteers to do work that we can't just ask them to do that. We have other venues where you want to announce your exhibit, or you want to tell somebody you've got something for sale. There's a club Facebook page, you can go there, you can do other social media stuff. So we decided we're going to limit the use of the club email, and anything on the website is limited to club matters as a whole. So we may announce the club has something for sale, but if you have something for sale, it's not going on our website. And we're not sending out any emails off that. So Facebook, newsletter, other social media. Sun City Photography Annual Print Competition. Marcia is going to tell us all about that.
It seems, oh dear, I'm gonna be a little like our former speaker.
Let's just
I'll stand over here.
Tell me when you want to switch.
Yeah, so it seems like it's a long ways away, but it isn't really, and particularly if you're traveling this summer, I want you guys to know about the annual exhibit. This year we don't have a designated director of exhibits. We have a exhibits committee, and they have been working really hard to come up with some of the important preliminary bits. The day-to-day, down and dirty logistics of actually putting this together will happen further down in the year. But for now, the exhibit will be in the Activity Center between November 6th and December 30th. That actually might be December 29th. That one's not clear. Registration will open on October 1st and close on October 31st. This year, it's a print competition. And it has always been a print competition, but this year for sure the images will be judged as prints, as opposed to a couple of years in the past where the judging was done via digital images of the print. So this year, it will be actually the final framed, matted prints that will be judged. They'll also accept canvas prints, but they have to be appropriately gallery wrapped, or prints on glass or aluminum, but they will be judged in their final presented state. The timeline, we got an important little piece that's probably out of order. Can you click to the next one? There we go. So the other important thing is this year we have a panel of 3 local judges. Jennifer Lee Warner, who's from Leander, she's a wildlife photographer and leads wildlife photography workshops. Rudy Jimenez from Georgetown, he's been a long time member photographer in the Georgetown area, and in fact has been a judge for the Sun City competition several times in the past. And the third person is Gary Arbuckle, who also has been a past judge, who is from the Round Rock area. So they will work as a panel to judge the final prints, as I said. One more. Okay, so this year we just made a change. There are 2 levels of experience. Level, we can read it, but I'll just tell you. Level 1, which we formerly called novice, which we thought was a slightly demeaning term. I'm not sure that's true or not, but we feel better calling it level 1. And level 1 is actually going to be defined as a beginning photographer or one who thinks they're still learning the very basic skills of photography. That could be all of us, but the exhibit committee nor the judges are going to be the experienced police, so this is a friendly club. We just expect people to be friendly and and then level 2 is all other photographers. And the categories are, Alan?
Well, the level 1 is.
The categories, well, yeah, so level 1, we'll just go to the categories thing. Oh, I see, you didn't put it that way. All right, so, I'm sorry, go back. There we go, I see. All right, I just sent him the stuff and he had to make the slides with very little input from me. So level 1, photographers will be able to enter 1 photo and their category will be my best photo. Level 2 photographers, level 2 photographers may enter 3 photos, but 1 in each of 3 of the categories. And these are the categories. It's actually scapes, right? So it could be landscapes, cityscapes, seascapes, animals, which include birds and insects and reptiles, vegetation. You can read it, and they will be posted. The things that might be worded slightly different than in the past, the creative category is including any photo that is a clear alteration of reality. It can include abstracts. And then the open category, which is basically anything that you can't fit into one of those other categories. So I think that's about it for now. Again, registration will open October 1st. It will close on October 30th. The framed and final prints will be delivered to the Activity Center on Sunday morning, November 6th. The judges will turn up at noon on November 6th and do their magic, find the winners in each of those categories. And then the winners will be announced the following Sunday, November 13th at our reception. So.
Is there a limit to the number of photos that can be entered?
Yes, 3.
No.
Oh, the whole thing. 120. Maximum of 120. Last year we had 100. The year before that we had to close it. Well, you were doing it then. So what, did we close it at 130? 150. But that was the COVID years. So it was all digital that year. So any other questions? Again, the logistics will come out a little bit later. But Jim.
Will it be a first, second, and third in each category?
He asked if there would be a first, second, and third in each category. Yes, depending on how many photos are in the category. So there may be a first, second, and third, and an honorable mention if there are like 17 or 18 in a category. If there are only 4 in a category, there will just be a first. And
Maximum size limitation?
That's a good question, and the committee hasn't actually talked about that, so I will make a note to myself to put that on the agenda to discuss.
Please do, because it's hard painting, it's great big pictures.
Exactly, we're facing that same sort of issue over at St. David's, so thank you for asking me that, and I'll make sure that the committee discusses that, and you guys will be the second to know. Okay, start looking at those photos. And those of you who are level 1 photographers, if you need help, if you need information.
Or if you need help with like vetting, Sherry McRae is happy to help people vet their own
No,
photos.
that's a training workshop.
Oh, very afraid. I'm sorry. Oh, yes, Larry. One more thing. Is there a limit to how far back you can go? Is there a limit to how far back? The answer is no. Last year we had a limit, it had to be more recent than 5 years. We determined that there are too many people here who are presently unable to get out and take photographs. We think that we ought to show photos for, those people shouldn't be excluded if they're not physically able to go out and photograph. Also, I wanted to mention that you'll be registering, we're using a Google Forms method for registering for these things. And so the information that you will put in, we will use to put on the little card that goes with that photo. And it's an opportunity for you to sell your photos. But if you put in that your photo is selling for $10 and you wanted to say $100, it's coming out at $10. So what you put in is what's coming up. If you don't know how to spell your name, you're gonna get your name spelled the way you spelled it. So keep that in mind, you've gotta do it right, because we're not gonna go through and see if you know who you are. All right. Photographer of the month this month, out on the wall, Bish. And welcome to sing this next one. Oh, okay, Howie de Blasi will be the photographer of the month for next month. Let's see, all right, check the club calendar for upcoming events, including SIG meetings. Sometimes in the past at this meeting, we would say, well, this SIG meeting is meeting this time and that time and whatever. You can check the calendar, you don't need us to tell you stuff that you can check the calendar. The student,
Sorry, we have a lot of new members and a lot of, I don't think anybody.
yeah,
I'm also in my other life a calendar manager. So for new members, sometimes you make little, subcategories, so you can just log straight in to the photo club, and then people email me and say, I can't see anything on the calendar. So you have to be logged in. You will see the club, you'll see the calendar, but it will look empty. So if you look at the calendar and there's nothing on it, just go back and hit the resident login and go back to the club calendar. It's only for members, so it's all there.
The studio has some lock cabinets and the computer there is locked. And there is a key to unlock those things. And they're locked for a reason. Now, if you want to come and steal all that old studio stuff, knock yourself out, I'll give you the key. We do have to have some security there. And so sometimes the monitor has a list of people who have been authorized to have the key. So if you go down there, now all the monitors pay attention, they just give out the key. We prefer they not do that. We have a list of people who have a reason to have access to that locked stuff. If you think you have a need, you can ask me and I can get your name on the list, assuming that you have a legitimate need for it. But some of those monitors feel uncomfortable giving out keys to accept the people who should have access. And the CA has said they're gonna try with their monitors to say, sorry, you can't have a key, your name is on the list. And the list is fairly long. But if you need access, let me know. All right, live streaming, that's what we're hopefully doing this right now. If you want to see this meeting, if you missed all the good stuff, you want to review it again, go to YouTube, search for Sun City TX Photo, don't go beyond that. On your computer, click on live, and on the TV, select the club image, which is going to be by accident. And setting this thing up is not something I'm proud of my abilities to do, because I clicked on something and I ended up clicking on a new image, because we have the studios, we have the Photo Club logo. Well, I think you see my shoulder and part of my face or something. I'll try and change that when I get home, but anyway. So you can see it, you can live stream it, and hopefully there's some people who are live streaming now. Fun Photo Fridays on May 27th. This is just getting going. We had it in April, 4 p.m. Activity Center. Gamers wanted to bring a snack, and Jim will have you send photos, and we show a bunch of photos, and it could be anything. And it's just a fun opportunity to show your photos and tell people about what they might be, or that sort of thing. So that's coming up it's like it really is a fun program. I guess we're to the guest. Tell you what, Bob, you go unplug me and plug you in, and I'll try to introduce you while you're doing that. Bob is a member of the club. He's been, in fact, I think Bob was one of the first members of this club that I met when I came here over 5 years ago. And I was really impressed with his ability as a photographer and his knowledge of gear, and just as a really nice guy to get to know. And so Bob got excited about phone photography, and so he's kind of iPhone, not just any phone, but iPhone. So this should go this way. And so, Bob, you.
Trying to get this thing clipped. Wired for sound. We're gonna get a little potpourri of screensaver photos from my TV. My presentation today is entitled Intro to iPhone Photography. It's been also called How to Take Better Photos. The camera you already have, that's assuming you have an iPhone. How many people use an iPhone? Where are all the Android people today? There's a place for you guys too. Android's got great cameras too, Samsung and Google and LG. Today is going to be interesting. I'm going to start with a question. I asked you one, I'm going to ask you another now. Why would this guy, a 50-year Canon shooter, use this device, an iPhone 12 Pro Max? Mine was like, I got the 256 gig. It's more than that. Instead of one of these beauties. That's what I started to get, I thought, a few years ago. An R5 and an R6. And it's not because of the price, $3,900 for that body and $2,800 for that body. But why does he use an iPhone as his prime camera? Why? Well, because I like to capture moments, fleeting opportunities. They're my memories. And in our SIG, our special interest group, the iPhone Photography SIG, I want to share some of the shots some of the viewers have taken. With their iPhones. I can comment on that. That's flying to the SeaTac Airport from Dallas Fort Worth. That's Mount Rainier, and then you can see the other 4 volcanoes along the California coast there. Yeah, Carlos Rios family contributed that. And Jeff Goldberg, let's see, this is his wonderful shot, fall color. This is my daughter's hibiscus plant. And Walt's, we didn't see any of these this year. What's it called? Indian paintbrush. This is Bon Voyage. I can't say it, but it's Bon Voyage. Notice what this one has in its mouth? How many of you have thrown chips out for the seagulls? It's a blast. And you can actually catch it on your iPhone. When I looked at this shot afterwards, I was really surprised. Here he is, bottom frame with the chip. Departing Galveston. Have you ever noticed that you can't take the same picture if you get out of your car? You see a great scene, you say, I gotta shoot that. You stop, pull over. It ain't the same scene. There's only one way to take it. That's where you're driving. That is Sierra Blanca. This is the road from Alamogordo. We're heading in toward Rio Cosa. I'm doing 59 miles an hour. I'm going northwest. And I put my RED there. Okay. Crossing a bridge in Venice, and there it was.
That was an iPhone
Yeah, 8+. And when you travel, it's indispensable. Love the colors.
That was in Green Bay.
Green Bay, of course, yeah. And Jerry's dishwasher, no? And that's my granddaughter.
And your granddaughter?
Yes, youngest one. And this is Disney World. Does anyone know what this ride is? Splash Mountain.
Anybody have the ball handed? It's Howie, Mr.
How is he took the years like we all are, but this is a kid. You notice everyone else's normal reaction when you tip over on that ride and head into oblivion. He's upright, wanting to take it all in. And if you look at the video, the shots of that, they take the camera, there's a camera up here. See it in the left hand corner right there? If you look at the still shots later, he's just ecstatic. A moment of ecstasy. And there's Evelyn ducking. And I'm the only other idiot. I've got my camera trying to capture the scene. Then I ducked. Then I tucked and ducked. Well, why buy an iPhone? Well, convenience and access to the internet. You can do that on Android. Well, why an iPhone? Well, there's the Apple ecosystem to contend with. That's an advantage. And then there's the quality of the images. So let's look at the Apple ecosystem. Apple ecosystem. Has anyone heard that before? If you have. When we talk about Apple ecosystem, wait a minute. I had a slide pop out of order. Anyway, excuse me, this is Rita Johnson's great photo. This is like Saturday Evening Post magazine. I don't know if anyone can remember that. What was the painter that did those family Rockwell? This looks like a Rockwell painting. Fantastic. Okay. Back to the Apple ecosystem. There's no more surprises like that. This is looking at photos on the iPhone. So the iPhone is part of the ecosystem. The Mac is, this is an iMac in my case. Apple TV is part of the ecosystem. And of course it projects onto whatever big screen TV, 65-inch OLED in my case. Your iPads, and your Apple Watches. See, I have photos on my watch. Each one changed every time I move my arm. Well, anyway, all those share your photos. You've got access to all your photos. So that's one thing. And I'll go into more detail on that in the city. But superior image quality is the ultimate final reason you would use an iPhone. But how is it superior? Well, since they started developing the iPhone in 2007, well before that, when they introduced it in 2007, it was using some sort of infantile processor. A processor that was intended for some of their device that Apple usurped and used it for their initial device. But over the years, Apple started designing their own chips, processors, central processors for the phone and the cameras. And with the iPhone 11, back 3 years ago, with the A13 Bionic, as they called it, they were already light years ahead of everybody else in terms of processing speed, and in terms of efficiency of the processor, meaning how much juice does it take to do its job, which means you get better battery life. So these things keep going and going, like my iPhone 12 Pro Max has an A14 chip, and it had almost 12 billion transistors. Well, the current iPhone 13 A15 has 15 billion transistors. Now that's about as far into chips as I can comprehend, okay? But there are all kinds of things going on in these chips that improve battery life and enable. The key thing is that this speed of this processor enables it to do all of the photography, what I call computed photography tricks or technology that makes the images look so good. I call it computational photo tech. So like the A14 on the 12, it had a 6-core CPU, a 4-core GPU, a neural engine, and an image signal processor. All this on one chip. Now, if you're a computer scientist and you understand all that stuff, that's good. But what Apple does with their images in a real simplistic fashion, it's a lot like HDR, which is high dynamic range photography. I think a lot of people probably are somewhat familiar with that. In the old days, you might rapid a photo, you see an image, you might take 3 shots, one underexposed, one overexposed, and one right on what the meter says. And then you could get some off-the-shelf software on your computer, and then you could merge those 3 images together. That in the most elemental form is what Apple does, but on steroids. Here's a simplistic view with just 8 images. Usually it's 8, 9, or more images, from underexposed to overexposed. And this is where all those different parts of that chip I was pointing out come into play. There's something called semantic rendering and tone mapping that goes on. That same scene of the mountains, the chip and the machine learning and its capabilities is smart enough to know what the sky is, it knows what mountains are, it knows what trees are, it knows what faces are, it knows what hair is, and it deals with each one of those separately. So you could call this image fusion technology. And then it brings it all together and presents you a photo right now. So it tries to give you the photo of the image that you processed in your own brain and you saw. Because what you see is a perception after you post-process it in your brain extensively. That's the big advantage over a traditional camera. And this computational photo technology takes the shape, most times, of 3 different technologies. One's called Smart HDR, and now it's in its 4th generation, Deep Fusion, and Night Mode. Smart HDR is used mainly for daytime shots. Deep Fusion is used especially in mid and low light, indoors, low light. And Night Mode is used at night. Additional computed photography technologies include portrait mode. That's been around a long time. It came on with the iPhone 7. The iPhone 7 Plus. Portrait mode, if you remember with portrait mode, you started getting those studio lighting options. You can click around, and it would brighten faces. So that chip had to understand what a face is as opposed to the background. Panoramas, I love panoramas. and live photos. I'll show you some examples of those in a minute. Now with the latest iPhone 12 Pro models and the 13 Pro models, you get LiDAR scanner. It's a sensor, a dark black dot as part of the cameras. And it's sending out light detection and ranging information. It's picked up. So it can allow you to focus in pitch black. So the focusing issue is no longer an issue. And then ProRes video for people that are in the video. ProRes is the professional level of output format for video. So the iPhone Pro, and by the way, the iPhone Pro model is the model I recommend that if anyone's interested in photography and you're buying an iPhone, you want to buy the iPhone Pro models, not just the standard 12, the standard 13, or the standard 11. You get a triple camera system that adds tons of capability without complexity. That's the key. Apple has always been that way with the Mac and with the phones. Lots of capability without complexity. Now, if you bring on complexity, go for it. You know, I remember when in 1985, I bought a Canon camera that had autofocus lenses. And there were snide people in the clubs that said, only real men use manual focus. And I remember a time when some photographer said, you're not a real man if you don't have an external light meter. How many of you carry around an external light meter now to gauge their shots? Now, all that stuff has been eclipsed by technology. The other big thing about these extensively capable chips is the unprecedented leap in battery life. Each year, each phone picks up an hour and a half to 2.5 hours on usage time. And a mind-blowing chip that doubles down on machine learning. And this is their advertising. It pushes the boundaries of what a smartphone can do. Almost seems like James Kirk would say that. Here we go. iPhone 13 Pro models. Glance. The new one that's out right now, which a few of you have already, has a new larger, faster, like f1.5 wide camera, which has a 26mm field of view. And then the tele lens, tele in quotes, is a 77mm field of view, which is better than the old 12 Pro Max that I had. It's only a 65mm field of view. And then every camera, the 3 on the back and the selfie camera, all have night mode now. Something new on the 13s though, they get what's called photographic styles. And that's sort of like smart filters, I call it. But it's not reversible. There are filters on in photos when you shoot with your camera. You can apply some filters, and if you don't like them, you can take them off later. It doesn't change anything. This one is sort of like in a Fuji camera. Fuji has these emulsion choices you can choose, and it'll tune your output image of your camera to look just like Velvia film used to, or a certain type of black and white emulsion used to look. Well, what this is it's allowing some people in the competitive sphere, some people like the way an Android camera puts out an image. It's higher contrast than reality, some might argue. But I like higher contrast shots myself. So you have the opportunity with the iPhone now and the 13 Pro models of going in there and cranking in a certain look to all your images. But it's not just a dumb filter. It leaves the faces alone. It doesn't mess with the faces, and it just works. You just have to look at the images that come out to judge whether you like it or not. But it's trying to make them look like, some people allege it's trying to make an iPhone look like Samsung or Google. But you have that option now. Cinematic mode was the big thing they pushed this year. That's like portrait mode for video. And it also does AI-induced focus pulls. So one person staring at the camera it focuses on them. But if he turns his head and there's another face in the scene, it'll focus on that face. So it does these focus pulls automatically. And the new processor, the A15, gives you more battery life. And the other major thing that came with the 13 was this ProMotion screen. It's got a refresh rate of 120 hertz, variable, down to 10. Like this 12 Pro Max is 60 hertz. Every iPhone before that was 60 hertz. 60, and that's all it was. It can be any faster, never any slower. The new phone, since it can vary the rate, like if you're playing games or scrolling through images, it would go up to 120, but if you're just looking at a still page of text, it would drop down to 10. Well, the advantage of that is it saves power. So the more efficient processor chip plus this ProMotion screen is enabling this increase in battery life for the 13. The other big change with the 13 is, once again, the prime camera, this wide lens, the sensor itself has gotten larger, which means each little pixel of the 12 megapixels got bigger, which enables them to capture more light, which is a good thing. You see the other two cameras are still at 12 millimeter size, 12 millimeter square. Now some examples. This is portrait mode of my daughter shot by her husband with an older iPhone, had to be rated at 7, probably a 10. You notice how it diffuses the background, and yet leaves the face and hair and everything sharp. This is back in one of our SIG meetings a few years ago with Kathy. And I think that's Catherine in the background. Out of focus. This is over Mendoza. This is a statue. It will work with inanimate objects. Now, this is a particularly bad photo of me. You never like your own photo. I don't like my face there. But this is not taken in portrait mode. I handed my camera to Evelyn, and she's standing there, and then she shifts to portrait mode. Now watch what happens when you go to portrait mode. It zoomed in. It switched from the wide lens to the tele lens, the 65 millimeter lens. And this is the computed photography. It diffused everything in the background. Our pastor back there, this is Easter, and now he's got focus. See the way it was before? This is a straight, normal shot. Oh, by the way, I get more comments with my hat. I really like wearing it. This gentleman walked up to me at Easter. He had this World War II hat. I said, "Are you really in World War II?" He said, "Yes, sir. B-29 crew member, 98 years old." That's the son back there. He's probably my age. I said, "Man, I wish I could look like that at 98.
So you start wearing that.
The magic's in the hat, I guess. Here's a puppy. It'll work with animals too. Oh, and the other point about this is you can, in post, when you edit in photos, you can go back and change the f-stop on this and sharpen it up or even make it fuzzier. Panoramas, another essential function. This is the main ballroom in the Doge Palace in Venice. Anyone been here? Moore Monroe, Grand Tetons. This is a observation point at the little pond at the entrance to the Elk Refuge in Jackson, Wyoming. This is the halfway up to Inspiration Point across Jenny Lake. This is the Spencer Theater near Ruidoso. Excuse me. This is Evelyn on her private yacht, looking at Monaco, waiting for the F1 race to begin. No, actually, it's the Viking Star. We were on a cruise. You'll see more of that later. This is not how you like to find the Trevi Fountain. Crowded. Okay, live photo is another super function on the phones. Great for kids, anything that moves that you don't take a shot of. When you take a live photo, you're basically taking a 3-second video. And then when you edit it, you can put it into loop mode and it'll just repeat. It looks great with the water. That's the terrace. This is February last year. This is the one of the fireplaces in, it's a wall of fireplaces dividing the corridor from the spa on the Viking Star. And I was riding this roller coaster at Disney World, and this red rocks contrasted with the beautiful blue sky and the castle in the background. I had to shoot it anyway. It's a lot more moving when you just play it back on your phone because you get the audio as well. It doesn't play through here for some reason. This is in a friend's pool. Macro. That photo just jumped way out of line. Well, we're in the macro now. This is as close as I can shoot these lantana blossoms with my iPhone 12 Pro Max with the 65mm. That's as close as you can get to it in focus. That's stepping back a little bit. That's the way it looks. I don't know why these reversed. So this is the way it looks if you just stepped up to it. Well, the punchline is missing. It shuffled my deck. This was the beginning slide, macro photography. Thanks to Phil Benzamine, he came over, he has a 13 Pro Max, and he, with the macro capability, and he took this shot of this particular blossom. And he shot this one as well. They're going backwards for some reason. Here is the follow-on shot. This is what the 13 Pro Max macro capability did. See how close to those petals of that lantana it got? Within 2 or 3 centimeters. Now, night mode. John Bosch. John, you here today? He was the first person I know that got a 12 Pro Max. And I still had my 8 Plus. But he sent me this because this is his living room without night mode turned on. And then there's a fire. It wasn't this way before. But that's how close you can get. And that's probably not the last shot of that to pop up. Here's a shot of my front yard with my 8 Plus. This was the night I received my 12 Pro Max. So I still had my camera, my old phone, before I sent it back in for my refund. And then there's his living room.
No flash, just night mode.
That's night mode, just turned it into day. And we're back in the macro. Here's a without, and there's LiDAR. Well, things are just, this is another capability that should have been talked about a few minutes ago. When I was talking about LiDAR enables you to focus, it also is usable by other apps to paint, to make floor plans of of your home. Because this is what's happening. The laser is sending out all those dots, and it's determining the distance to all those points. And it can array that into a fashion to show you the room. Well, if you had the other shot before, that'd make more sense anyway. Night mode works. And so does macro. Isn't it incredibly close? Like I say, it's like having a fourth camera on your iPhone. The bottom line of that is the iPhone frees you from all the technical details and allows you to focus on light, composition, and storytelling. You don't have to worry about technical issues. My goodness. This has really been switched around. I apologize. This was supposed to show, I went to great trouble to get comparison shots. The bottom line is the iPhone from the Model 8 Plus forward has provided unedited images equal to or better than traditional camera JPEG output. Now with the 11, 12, and 13 Pro series, it provides a better image unedited than a traditional camera. JPEG out of camera. And I had a roll of photos taken with the iPhone and a crop sensor Canon. That was the biggest format I was shooting. A Canon 50D and a Canon SL1. They were 15 megapixel and 18 megapixel compared to a 12 megapixel iPhone. And this is a lousy projector, by the way. It shows nowhere near the detail that you can get on an OLED screen like over at the studio. But suffice to say, all these photos look the same. You couldn't tell the difference. Whether it's the car show a couple of years ago, looking at T-Birds, there's two together. Which is the iPhone and which? Most people know where this is. I had 3 shots of this, same thing. Yep. Anyway, they all look the same. Next, I'm going to talk about the iPhone Photography City. We meet on the first Friday of each month at 10 o'clock in this, what I call the studio, activities building, room 1 and 2. And we look at tea time pictures. No, we don't. The goals of the SIG is to share the joy and simplicity of iPhone photography and to improve our photographic skills and to enjoy sharing our photos taken with iPhone cameras. And what we typically look at and learn about is photographic education. We look at educational videos. We look at hardware reviews, iPhones and other tools that we use, and we look at member-submitted images, like I showed you at the very beginning, of subjects of the month. We've got website resources that Barbara Friedman helps us, and she's essential to that effort. On the SIG website, you'll find session notes and videos, image galleries, iPhone tutorials, and recommended compact zoom travel cameras. This is the website. You go to Photo Club, pull down this special interest groups, pull down, and you can find iPhone photo right at the top. Go over to iPhone photo, and then there's a description on kind of a mission statement of the SIG. Then you've got options for like image galleries, and also the iPhone camera tutorial. And now we also have the zoom camera options there. And we have the subject of the months listed for the year. The SIG has been going for 3 years now. And you can find all the notes, which basically is my script that I use for each one of the sessions. It gives you all the videos that we watch in each one of those sessions. And during COVID, we were, thanks to Walt, we were videoing a number of these. So the videos of those sessions are available. This is what the notes look like. All the links to the videos are there. You see the topics we covered. And the references to the videos. They're in the iPhone camera video tutorials. Be sure to check that out because like if you don't want to wait for the next SIG or if you don't want to wait for a future class that's coming up, I've curated a listing of videos that show you how to use your iPhone camera. The first one that kicks it off was provided by Phil Pizzabane from the iDevices SIG. One day he went through soup to nuts using the whole camera, how to access everything on the camera. I said, Phil, I want to use that. So he gave me the link for the video. So you've got a 78-minute video to walk you through the camera. Now, if that's too slow or too long, you've got another, here's a 17-minute video that covers virtually everything real quick. And then there's other videos, especially videos aimed at the latest cameras. So there's one on the iPhone 12 Pro, one on the 13 Pro. So there's all kinds of information there that's available. There's also galleries that are available at the website where you can see all the subject of the month, images that were submitted and shared. So you can find your images there if you participated. Some of the original ones are on the website. Some of them are a link to a Dropbox site. So it looks a little different when you go to that. It looks more like this when you click on the link. And then it looks like this. And these look odd because that particular session we were looking at panoramas. So everyone submitted panoramas. Needed a big files. Okay. And we had the videos of the Zoom sessions. And I finished this spreadsheet for all the travel Zooms we looked at this past year. And we have these last 3 to look at this fall, the most expensive 3. But this is on the website as well, the spreadsheet with all the specifications for all these cameras. And Bob's travel photography philosophy. My philosophy is to be a late model iPhone Pro or Pro Max phone, 11, 12, or 13, preferably 13. Yeah. Carry a compact travel zoom for shots over 77 millimeters. If you're like me, there's all kinds of things I want to shoot that's over 77 millimeters away. All the gear fits in one carry-on bag. Traveling with the iPhone. Here's some examples when we went on a Viking Mediterranean Odyssey cruise. We're at the Eurostar Hotel in Barcelona. I'm on the roof with my Sony RX10 Mark III. This is a 509 millimeter shot of the Viking Star in harbor, which we got on a couple days later. That's the itinerary. I highly recommend it. Barcelona and all the usual suspects along the coast, all the way around to Venice. If you get the idea, I don't take any pictures. You'd be wrong. On that trip, with my iPhone 8 Plus, I took 2,339 shots. 140 a day. And that only comprised 46% of the images I shot on that trip. My Sony Zoom, I shot 2,483. 155 a day. That was the largest group. by a margin of 5 points. And then my poor Canon G7X, it's really been eclipsed by the iPhone. Only 150 shots. It's only like a 4X and but it's a fast lens on that little camera. But it didn't get much activity. So 5,000 shots, 305 a day. I'm not gonna show all those to you. I hope not. Who's been here? Anybody? Sagrada Familia. An outside shot with an iPhone. Can't take this with an iPhone. 119 millimeter. 310 millimeter. This is inside with just a straight iPhone shot. Straight iPhone 8 Plus shot. This could have been taken with my 8 Plus, but I happened to be holding my Sony because I was getting ready to do intensive work on this this Jesus figure up there. .277 millimeters. That looked good, but not good enough. 447 millimeters, that's better. 493, I think that's it. So there was a subject, an opportunity in that particular cathedral where a zoom really was really handy. Now, on this day in Venice, we were going over to the Rialto Bridge, and I wanted to walk down and get a shot of the bridge, so I walked away from the group while they got a snack, a little cafe right by there, and I took a shot of this little boat. And I framed this shot up with these piers, beams, and what have you call it, right here, with the Rialto Bridge in the distance there. Then I walked back to the bridge and got this shot approaching it. This shot walking up on it. Still, I'm not using any zoom now. This is just straight camera shots with the iPhone. Then a panorama on the right side of the bridge. And then I saw 3 separate photos there that I wanted to take stills of. That one. And then I zoomed up to the 2X on that 8 Plus. And then this shot here, which I love. The architecture of these, the Rialto Bridge and the building next to it, and that little tower over there. I just love that picture. Now, best travel zooms, real quickly. This is back in 16. Notice I have SX50, and then 50D, and then the G7X, and an iPhone, a 6S in the pocket. Of the cameras we looked at this year, the most affordable, anything less than this, these are all in the $400 to $500 range. Anything less than this is just too junky to consider. So 400 up. The ZS80 or the Canon SX740HS, really nice camera. A little more expensive ones. Sometimes those first few I showed you are a little bit small for some people's hands. So you can move up. It's the same size sensor, 1 2/3. This is just a little bit bigger. It's being eclipsed by some of the later sensors now. It's it's like a cell phone sensor size zoom, the sensor itself. But there's the H679. That's out of place. That's a small one that you can put in your pocket. These are a little bit bigger. They're not as big as a regular DSLR, but they've got manual controls that you can access more easily than the little small boxes that you can slip in your coat pocket. These would hang around your neck, but they're light. They're not heavy like my camera. Lumix XZ80. And this one, I own the SX50, and Jim Wool had the 60. Yeah, and I love mine. Look at the reach, optical, 1365. Can you imagine a 1365 lens for a crop sensor or a full frame? You can't carry it around. And you don't look at the price tag. Now, you can get a nice camera on lens and go 150 to 600 for a little over $1,000. That's not bad. Now we're stepping up to the 1-inch sensors. We went from the 1 2/3 little big sensors, now we're going up to the 1-inch sensors, which capture more light, a little bit better, a little more money. There's 2 contenders in that group that I recommend. The Lumix ZS200, it goes 24 to 480, and the Sony RX10 Mark VII, which only goes to 24 to 200. That's the only limiting thing about that camera, is it only goes to 200 optical. Now, it will do digital zoom quite well. There's the Sony, and there's the Lumix. This is all in that spreadsheet on the website, by the way. And then the ones that we haven't covered yet, the most expensive and the heaviest ones, the FZ1000 Mark II at $800. The FZ2500 by Lumix, $900. It goes to $480. And then undoubtedly the king of them all is this one right here. 24 to 600 optical zoom RX10 Mark IV. I bought the RX10 Mark III in April when they introduced the 4 in September. Always happens. Anyway, so my solution was the RX10 Mark III back in 2017. Now you can compare that to the size of a full frame Nikon D800E. So it is smaller than a full frame. It is only one lens, and this one lens will go to 600 millimeter optical, plus it'll go to 1200 digital, which looks clean as all get out. And this is just an 85 millimeter lens sitting on that Nikon. Just think about it. And that's $1,500. If that sounds like a lot of money, let's remember something here. Here's full frame Canon lens, EF 100 to 400, $2,000 just for that lens. And plus, I really want to carry that around. And this is a $2,900, 100 to 500 for the RF. So that's a good deal. So what is that? When you're talking zoom. I'm going to close with 10 top photo tips. I know a lot of you are waiting for this. First thing, get close to your subject. The 10th thing, okay, it's good for flowers. It's good for water lilies, may they rest in peace. This was taken over behind the CA ballroom before the CA facility director had them defoliate the whole pond. So I visited him and complained slightly, and they planted a few back. But that was shot for the RX10 Mark III. Use exposure compensation. If you happen to have an older than, like, if you don't have an 11 or 12 or 13, if you got a 10 or 4, you're probably going to use exposure compensation quite a bit. And by that I mean when you frame up on an image, you know the little sun thing in the middle? Say if you touch that, that sets your exposure and sets the focus. But you can move your finger up and down to adjust the exposure. That's exposure compensation. On the older cameras, that's the way it works. So you often have to do that. If you like sunsets, you like to capture the red orange of the sunset. With my 8 Plus, I always underexpose intentionally. I had to drop this sun down. I had to slide down underexposed to keep the color in. So older cameras, you have to use that more. This was one of those get close shots. It got trickery shuffled on me. This is a shot with the 8+. The fastest way to open your camera when one of these moments appears is swipe across the lock screen. There's supposed to be an image there. Also shoot in the golden hour. There's some golden hour shots. Here's swiping. Does everyone know how to swipe from left to right across your lock screen? That just, boom. Boom. You're in your camera. That's the fastest way to get it open. This is shooting in golden light. This is out of the shot. Best shrimp I've ever had. Louis Destin Seafood, Destin, Florida. Another close-up shot. This is get close to your subject. Remember your composition guidelines. They're guidelines, not rules. The rule of thirds. Turn on the grid. You wonder what the grid is on your phone? It's the little lines. Creates 9 boxes on your screen. And the other thing is allow negative space and use frames. You'll see some examples. This is more or less rule of thirds. This is just grandkids, didn't have an understanding. But I intentionally framed it with negative space over here. This is an F-22 air show. I intentionally shot it with more sky lifter. So the plane would have sky to fly into. This was a super long shot, probably 1,200 millimeters with the Sony of a P-51 Mustang. And distortion there is not the lens, that's just atmospheric distortion from long distance. And notice it stopped the blade. I forgot the name of this. This is in Canada. Moraine Lake, thank you. A particularly bad day in terms of clouds. Yeah. I'm standing on the gravel mountain at the end down there. Blue Angels, this is the way I shot it, and I try to crop just to leave a little negative space over there. I like to frame things. This was in Jamaica at a plantation. I love the window, also love the outside, tropical environment. This is Fairmont Lake Louise, 2005. Even Lubbock has nice sunsets. And I framed it with the trees. And who's been in this mission in San Antonio? It's San Jose. But I walked around until I found these trees that kind of wrapped around that tower. And when I was framing up this sunset shot of the Tetons, I had some trees on either side that kind of framed it. And you can't see anything else. So this is the Jackson Lake Lodge lobby. Get in there if you need to go. Awesome view of Mount Moran and the Tetons there. Those gigantic windows. How to get depth in your landscapes? Well, have a foreground object, have a middle ground object, and distant objects. This is Lee Trevino Court, Alto near Ruidoso. And that's the one up here with along your head. And that's the Capitan Mountains over there. And Sierra Blancas to the left, you can't see them. But you got these nice colorful plants and then some houses and you've got mountains in there. San Antonio on the river, US flag, boat, and then restaurant over there. That might be Boudreaux's or maybe another one. How many have been to the grist mill? In Green? Green? Always like that shot. This is a pullover, and there's a pull-off here on the highway, the main highway going through the Teton Park. And in June 16, these type of flowers are blooming all over the place. So you can get that in the foreground, and then the mountains. And this is up on Signal Mountain, a must-go place. And of course, the evergreens provide the 3D effect we want. In this case, what's those leaves called? Aspen. The aspen leaves. And you can see the ongoing fire over there at the foot of Mount Moran. All right. Next thing, number 4, master the Apple camera app. That's the best app for the iPhone. Now, if you want, one thing it doesn't have, everyone talks about, is it doesn't have a manual white balance. That's the only thing it doesn't have. But it's doing it automatically. It hits it most of the time real well. But otherwise, you don't need to do manual unless you just enjoy doing manual, in which case I recommend Camera Plus 2. It's an app that enables you to choose manually and as slowly as you would do with a normal traditional camera. All right? Yeah, there's the grid lines. This is typically how the camera app looks. Now there is a hidden menu. I think this may be what's coming up. Yeah. If you swipe on the screen to the left or touch this chevron up here on the later phones, you'll get other controls down here. We'll get into more of that in the SIG meetings. And for sure, use the Apple Photos app to edit and store your images. Every time you take a photo on this phone, unless you're using an alternative camera app, that photo is going into Photos. That's where you look at your photos. And it organizes them, very sophisticated, in a very sophisticated fashion. When you go into your library, you've got years, months, days, and all photos. So you can find them by year, find them by month. Any way you want to slice and dice it, you can find it. Or you can create your own albums. There are a lot of default albums. And you can also create shared albums, which are really super, especially if you're going on a trip and you want to share some photos back home with a loved one that can't come. You know, you can put stuff into that shared album and they can see it on their iPad. Even as you're shooting. As soon as you move it into the shared album, we see it. And then the For You is one of my favorite features of Photos is, you know, the machine learning bit. I mean, the computer it goes through different dates. It puts together logical photos and presents you with a slideshow on a certain topic with music. And then, of course, it has a search mode by faces or dates or by location, which is often what I do. You can go in and find all your shots on a map. If you say, I know I shot it in Ruidoso, so you can go look at Ruidoso and blow up the map and find just that part of Ruidoso and you took the picture. And take lots of photos. As you can tell, I take lots of photos. This is just a few. This is in the Spencer Theater, and this is that Chihuly glass. It's a wall of it, like that. And this is the incomparable Tetons on Jackson Lake, Disney World, a Royal Caribbean ship, I don't remember the name. But I love the way the architecture in their main dining rooms are. And sunrise over Jamaica. This is sunrise on the inside passage with Princess. And this is in North Park Mall. And that's me with my iPhone reflected in there. And finally, clean your lens, especially in the summertime. and you're putting on all the sunscreen, it will invariably get on your lenses on your phone. And it can ruin your day if you don't notice it. I'm a car guy as well as a camera guy. And there was this, back then, when this was taken in 19, this was just a super pretty red Honda touring car and Honda Accord. And I looked at the photo after I took it and said, what? That's there. And what? That's better. And final announcements. The next iPhone photo sync session will be September 2nd, 22. I'm using the summer to prepare this iPhone photo class that I'm going to start doing quarterly in October 22. And the class it will be up to 3 class sessions, 2 hours each, like during 1 week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, we go out to shoot our cameras with their phones. Early in the morning or late at night, late in the afternoon, trying to capture both an hour light. And the text for the course will be the iPhone User's Guide. That's a free download in iBooks for everybody. If you've got books, you know, the Apple's iBooks app on your phone, you can download this. I recommend everyone get it. They publish a new one each time they put out a new iOS. They just put out 15.5, I understand. So there's probably a new iPhone User's Guide coming out pretty soon. And that's what the Apple Books app looks like if you don't have it, or if you do have it on your phone. Some of the newer phones may categorize the apps to the back, so you can swing back to that list on the back and find it. If it's not on your homepage. All right, one closing comment. Wondering whether to buy a 13 Pro Max or wait for the 14. Is anyone buying a phone soon? Okay, doesn't sound like you might wait. Just 4 months or so. And that's what it looked like. The standard one, the 14 will just have the old notch. The Pros are gonna have this like sideways eye sort of holes for the cameras, for the selfie camera and for the other sensors. But the main thing for a photographer is it's projected to go to 48 megapixels, and the sensor size is getting bigger. And the sensor's getting bigger, and it's 48 megapixels. But there's a downside. Each pixel gets smaller. Each pixel can get less light. But what they're going to do is called pixel binning, and the 4 become, so you'll end up with still a 12 megapixel output, but it has the input 48 megapixels. And they need 48 megapixels so they can implement 8K video. So that's probably coming too. So, thank you for your time. Come join us for the iPhone City. We've got some great photographers in here. We'd love to have you.
Any questions for Julia? Yeah, here's a question.
What do you clean your lens with?
What do you clean your lens with is the question.
Ideally, you'd want to carry one of those little microfiber cloths that you can buy down like Precision Camera or online. That would be the best thing. And then, if all else fails, you're sure. Use something, carry a Kleenex. I bought this for demo today. Carry something that's ideally cotton and soft, or like say the microfiber, intended for cleaning lenses.